we're going to turn to now, very briefly, are some questions about what the nature of time is. On some views, time travel is impossible simply because there's nowhere to go in the past or the future. The only thing really real is the present. That's called presentism. And before we get to that view, I want to introduce to you the view that time itself doesn't exist. How about that? So this is following a philosopher called McTaggart and his idea of what it takes for something to count as time existing. He says we can imagine two temporal sequences composed of moments, individual monistic moments, and you should imagine them spread out. He says we can call one an A series of moments and one a B series of moments. The A series of moments, we pick one moment in this A series, it has a property, say, the property of being 2 days in the future, 1 day in the future, present, 1 day in the past, 2 days in the past. You get the idea. So here's this one moment, and it gains and loses certain temporal properties. That's the A series. The B series is a series of moments, again, that don't gain or lose properties. They have properties eternally, if you'll give me that, and these properties are such that this moment is 2 days, say, before this other moment, 4 days after this one, and so forth and so on. They're relational properties that are always true. Which reflects time? McTaggart says that either one or the other needs to be time, that these are the two candidates for what best reflects what time is, but that neither passes muster. The B series doesn't pass muster, according to McTaggart, because for time to exist at all, change needs to occur. This is a claim, and it's a conceptual claim. We don't understand what it is for time to pass, so the thought goes, if we don't understand the idea, if we don't have it as an idea of things gaining and losing properties. That's what the flow of time is things gaining and losing attributes or characteristics or properties. So the B series doesn't count as a temporal series because the things in it, these moments, don't gain or lose properties. There's no quote-unquote passage of time for it to therefore reflect time. They have their properties eternally because they're relational properties. But, so the thought goes, the A series of time can't exist either because it's a contradictory sequence. The same moment has the property of being 2 days in the future, 1 day in the future, present, 1 day in the past, and 2 days in the past. It has all of those properties, if you'll give me this, at once. We can't say that it gains and loses those properties because that would just be appealing to a different temporal sequence that pushes the problem back some. So on the one hand, we have a series, the A series, that has contradictory attributes, and that's conceptually impossible, so the argument goes. And we have another series, the B series, which doesn't really reflect anything conceptual about the passage of time because nothing gains or loses properties. Problem, solution, deny the existence of time. How about that? I'm not going to spend time examining this argument. It's a great thing for you to do on your own. I think in some ways this is philosophy at its best, and the reason I think so is because on the one hand, intuitively speaking, this can't possibly be right. This argument against the existence of time can't possibly be right. I'm speaking dramatically here, but the thought is it's so unintuitive. It seems to run so contrary to every single moment of our lived experience that we know something suspicious must be going on. However, it's a lot harder than you might think to see what might be wrong with the view. So I'll leave it as a challenge for you to really unpack McTaggart's view and to think about where it might go wrong. As with so many other things, there's always the temptation here to quickly wave one's hand and go, oh, here's the mistake. Most of these philosophers are pretty clever. It doesn't mean that they aren't wrong. It does mean, though, that some work's going to have to go into thinking about exactly where they go wrong. Let's put aside the question about whether time exists and ask the question about what's the best conception of time. Some philosophers who are presentists say that the only things that exist are things in the present. This view is best understood as an ontological view, a view that says that things that existed in the past no longer exist. Things that will exist in the future don't yet exist. The only real things are the things that exist at a present moment. So this is a conception of time where time is a moment, and then a moment, and then a moment. Some would disagree with my characterization of it, but you get the idea. And it's tied to the existence of things in that the only things that are really real exist in these moments. Now, this has some intuitive view, but it runs into a lot of problems as well. How am I supposed to make comparisons with individuals in the past if they don't exist in some sense? Now, I'm not saying that they're still alive. I'm not making that claim. But here the thought is, if Socrates on any level doesn't exist, then how can I compare myself to Socrates? I never would in the first place, but you get the idea. Here, these individuals of the past, whether it's past presidents or whether it's religious figures or whether it's philosophers or whomever, if they have no reality anymore because only the present exists, then comparisons to them are going to be as problematic as comparisons to fictional creatures, like comparing myself to Superman or Spider-Man or Wonder Woman. It's dealing with the same level of reality. None of these things are real at all. Now, you might not be as troubled by this as some philosophers are, but it has led some philosophers to say, no, this is the wrong view. The correct view is that all things exist. Really, what time is, it's a kind of spotlight. It's a spotlight moving over the things that exist here, now, to another here, now, to another here, now. Everything is out there. Socrates is as real as some individual in the future. Time is a spotlight that's moving over the things that exist, but they're all there already. This also has some plausibility to it, but in the same breath, it is kind of weird to think about the future already existing in any interesting sense. That has led others to endorse the growing block theory of time, where the past is real, the present is real, but the future is not yet real. How are these arguments settled? Through a lot of debate, through a lot of back and forth, through things that we're not going to look at now. All I wanted to do is lay out for you these different views of time. It's all spread out together. Time can be viewed as a moving spotlight over a variety of different individuals, but everything exists, past, present, and future. Presentism, the only thing that exists is what exists in the present, and this growing block view. A different debate, related but distinct from this, is the 3D, 4D debate in the philosophy of time. On this view, time is a dimension much like space. When you think spatially, the thought is you think relationally. Things are related to each other. This is to the right of this, that's to the left of that, behind, in front, above, below. Everything is relational. There's no such thing as just being to the right, period. There's always just being to the right of something else. The thought is similar about time. At any given moment, I or other objects exist spread out as a four-dimensional time-space worm, and moments are understood relationally, both temporally and spatially. We're not going to get into the merits or demerits of that view, but I wanted to put it on the table as well. How does all of this fit in with comic book stories? Truth is, it clarifies and makes more precise how some stories talk about time, but it also doesn't gel entirely with how fiction writers have discussed the nature of time, time travel, or alternate universes. And that's to be expected. Philosophy is not a kind of storytelling, no matter what some people might say. It's an attempt to get clear about what some of our pre-theoretical concepts are about these things. And so we shouldn't expect that when philosophers roll up their sleeves and think really long and hard about what time is, or whether time travel is possible, or what possible universes might be, we shouldn't expect that they're going to reach conclusions that vindicate what storytellers want to do with these ideas in the stories that they tell. All the same, superhero stories give us plenty of opportunity to think about these cool things, and so I'm glad we had a chance to do a little thinking along these lines today.